Today, the Polk County Grand Jury indicted Michael Dunn for second-degree murder for the killing of Cristobal Lopez on October 3rd, 2018. Mr. Dunn has been taken into custody and is currently at the Polk County Sheriff's Office jail. I'd like to acknowledge the work of Chief Larry Giddens, the Lakeland Police Department, the Homicide Division of the State Attorney's Office, Medical Examiner's Office, and the careful consideration of the grand jury in bringing these charges. While today is an important day in this case, it is merely the beginning of what is expected to be a very long process that will require court hearings and many other events to take place. Because of that, my comments on the case are very limited today. It is important to know that any case involving a death is often very complicated and requires quite a bit of work. Therefore, by working with our partner agencies, an indictment was delivered in just over 2 weeks after the killing. Now, there's been so much discussion on the facts of this case and the application of the stand your ground law. I fully anticipate that those issues will be brought before a judge for a hearing. But let me be clear, it is the policy of my office to comply with and abide by the stand your ground law. However, I have determined that this case and the actions of Mr. Dunn fall outside of the protection of the stand your ground law. It is important that this process go forward, that the victim, the victim's family, the defendant, and our community receive fair process and a fair trial. And we are committed to continuing to work diligently to accomplish that. Thank you.
Good evening. To address any concerns about how long the investigation took, please realize that the Lakeland Police Department submitted the complaint affidavit for this crime to the State Attorney's Office just 9 days after the shooting. In those few days, the scene was processed, all witnesses were interviewed, the victim's family was interviewed, the defendant's statement was obtained, multiple reports were written, the medical examiner's office conducted their investigation, the surveillance video was downloaded and then compiled so that it could be viewed. We had partnered with the State Attorney's Office to ensure that this investigation was done in a transparent, cooperative manner to ensure that all relevant laws were properly considered. Even after the complaint affidavit was submitted to the investigation continued in the form of the State Attorney's Office gathering and presenting evidence to a grand jury. The process was one which was handled with the utmost care, as all investigations must be. Although this investigation may have taken longer than some would have liked, we had an obligation to do it right. And that is what we will always do to ensure that the citizens of this community can continue to have faith and confidence in us that we have earned over these past few years. Thank you.
We're available for any questions that you may have. Again, it's going to be limited because the case is pending.
Hey, Bo Zimmer with 10 News. Obviously, so many of these cases, we have video recordings. How helpful in this particular case are the specific angles, and are they showing you what you need to see as law enforcement and as the state attorney in terms of what you're looking for? Well,
I appreciate the question, but I'm not going to comment on the evidence that we have going forward. It's something that's going to be considered by the courts, and I'd rather not discuss the specifics of the case.
State Attorney Brian House, why did you feel that this was outside of the stand your ground law?
Well, again, this is probably going to be my answer to a lot of your questions. It's a specific case that's going forward, and I really cannot discuss the specifics of the case.
Why a second-degree murder charge as opposed to manslaughter or some other type of charge?
Well, what I can tell you is that the grand jury carefully considered the evidence that was presented to it, and they did their job, and that's what we're going to go forward on.
And can you explain what that second-degree murder charge means?
Well, there are various types of murder. Obviously, this is the one that they felt was appropriate, and it does not require the premeditation that first-degree murder does, but obviously they felt that it was more appropriate than a manslaughter charge.
How long did they deliberate this decision?
Well, how they deliberated and how long they deliberated is not something that we can comment on. The grand jury deliberations and all the proceedings are confidential.
Can you talk to us about how this went down today in terms of how Mr. Dunn was taken into custody? Was he cooperative? Did he turn himself in? How all that happened in the timeline of events?
I think Chief Giddens was involved with that,
Okay.
so I'll let him speak on that.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, you're working in conjunction with the Bartow Police Department, along with 2 of our detectives. We were able to take Mr. Dunn into custody without any problems. He was cooperative, and he remains in the custody and care of the Polk County Jail.
And where was he taken into custody?
He was taken into custody at his attorney's office.
Brian, what made you decide to take this to the grand jury?
I think it was an important case for their consideration, given the the specific facts of the case. It was appropriate for them to consider, which they're certainly well able to.
Can you talk at all about his role on the commission? I'm assuming he won't be a commissioner for the city of Lakeland. Is that understanding?
Well, that's not certainly something that is up to me or the chief, but I think that will be something that will be addressed in the coming days, whether it's by the governor or by the local folks in Lakeland. The governor's office has been notified of today's events.
Has he been able, is he going to be able to bond out tonight, or will he have to go to his first appearance? When is that going to be?
The judge set his bond as a no bond, and that will not be modified until probably next week, if at all.
Will we have a first appearance, or?
I believe he'll be at first appearance. I don't know when, but he will be scheduled for a first appearance.
So he'll be spending at least the next week in jail?
Not sure how long it'll be, but when we have more information on that, we'll certainly provide it to you.
What judge was that?
Chief Judge Donald Jacobs.
What was, we heard that Michael Dunn was testifying today in front of this grand jury. What was his defense?
Well, again, anything that happened before the grand jury is not something that can be discussed in public.
Has he said to officers at that night of the shooting what he believed happened, or his, I guess, reason for doing what he did?
I appreciate the question, but he's entitled to a fair trial, and for me to comment on any statements he may or may not have made could impact that, and so I will not make those comments.
Was he claiming this was stand your ground?
Again, that's something that's going to have to be decided in court, and I would just ask you to stay tuned, and all the court hearings and the pleadings are open to the public, and I'm sure it's something that you all will follow.
You said that you expect a stand your ground hearing to happen. Why do you expect that?
Well, I mean, you just look at the general facts of the case, as outlined in the probable cause affidavit that is public record, and I think that it would be something that will likely be raised. But again, that's for the defense to raise, and we'll wait to see if that happens and deal with it in court.
You talked about taking this case to the grand jury. Can you talk to me about the significance of this case, just in terms of the future of this law in the state of Florida and everything surrounding this whole controversy? Just why do you consider this a very big case?
Well, I mean, look, we currently have well over 50 pending first-degree murder cases. So while this case is significant and important to our other cases involving deaths, those are just as important, and those victims' families want their cases to be handled correctly. As far as the stand your ground law, I'm the state attorney. I don't make the law, I follow it. And that's what we're bound to do. If the legislature decides to change it or amend it or keep it the same, we're just going to do our job based on the law that they give us. And that's my obligation. So we will deal with any challenges to our case regarding stand your ground or anything else based on the facts and evidence, and we'll respect the rulings of the court.
Have you talked to the victim's family, and if so, what have they said?
We certainly have been in close contact with the victim's family, and I'm not going to comment on our conversations in specific. But
You said it was appropriate to take it to the grand jury. Is that because he was a city commissioner? He was a city commissioner?
no, you know, there are times where we decide that it's appropriate to take cases to the grand jury that aren't necessarily going to be a first-degree murder case. The fact that he was a commissioner really did not have an impact on anything that we did. He was a owner of a store who, through this set of facts, this killing happened, and it's not something that we see every day for this type of thing to happen. So it was not very typical.
The chief said that he had the case for 9 days, and then I'm assuming, was that when it was turned over to you and you sent it to the grand jury, or how long did the grand jury have it?
Well, can't comment on what the grand jury did or how long they had it, but certainly Lakeland worked very diligently on this case, and as soon as they were able to get their investigation to a completion, at least at the initial stage, they got it to us. So I thought they did it very efficiently and got us the information that we needed. And then as the case continued to be investigated this week, Chief Giddens had his detectives available for anything that we needed to continue as we did our work. So it's an ongoing partnership that we have with law enforcement, not just in this case, but in all of our cases. Okay, thank you all.
Thank y'all very much.
I'm sorry, can you give us what's coming up, the next steps, if any, in this case?
Well, the first thing that you'll have is a first appearance hearing. Anticipate that would be tomorrow, possibly Sunday. I don't know what the cutoff is. And then the next official court date would be an arraignment that I think would probably be in a few weeks. That's set by the clerk. And then it's set for standard court dates that come forward after that.
So you're thinking that when he has a first appearance, the bond won't be changed? It'll still be a no bond?
Right.
There are first appearances on the weekend, though.
Yes,
right?
that's
You don't
correct.
think he'll appear tomorrow?
I believe he will. What I was,
Tomorrow or Sunday.
Okay.
maybe I didn't explain it as well as I could have, but the judge, when he set the bond, said that the bond will remain no bond until modified by the chief judge or the actual judge who's assigned the case, and that probably wouldn't happen until next week.
Okay.
When the bond was decided, was Michael Dunn in the room when that happened?
That's not something I can comment on.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Judge's name again?